Imagine a world where the urban pavement vanishes, replaced by the shifting, predatory grit of the deep interior. The only sound is the rhythmic thud of your pulse. A biological clock ticking toward a choice that will define your existence. You possess 3 liters of fluid and a corroded multi-tool. No map, no shade, no margin for error. In this moment, you aren't a traveler. You are a sequence of chemical reactions struggling to maintain equilibrium against a landscape designed to dismantle you. This isn't merely a struggle for calories. It's a study in how the human psyche unravels when the horizon refuses to change. As the sun dipped below the jagged spine of the range on a mid-July evening, that unraveling began. The world would later know this man only as a shadow. To understand the saga of Shadow Fist, one must first grasp the geography of the void he entered. This was the Red Basin, 5,000 square miles of unmapped silence and high desert scrub. The atmosphere is so parched, it leaches moisture from your corneas before you can blink. For the man stepping into this furnace, the objective was simple. A 4-day solo trek to prove a human could exist without a digital umbilical cord. He was seasoned, disciplined. His physiological resilience bordered on the clinical. Yet, the wilderness ignores credentials. Technical interlude. The rule of 3s. Survivalists live by a strict hierarchy of needs. 3 minutes without oxygen. 3 days without hydration. 3 weeks without sustenance. But there is a hidden 4th 3. The 3 seconds it takes to make a decision that converts a hiker into a statistic. That transition occurred at the devil's throat. It was a limestone slot canyon appearing as a mere fracture in the crust. The mineral walls were slick, polished by centuries of flash floods into a surface as unforgiving as obsidian. A single stride, a patch of loose scree. The world tilted. He didn't fall, he was swallowed. The slide lasted 4 seconds, culminating in a 12-foot drop into a catch basin of stagnant, alkaline brine. The impact was a dull, wet thud. Then, silence. The magnetic needle of his compass snapped. His primary reservoir burst, soaking his garments in a cruel irony of hydration. He was at the base of a mineral gullet, the sky above a blue ribbon no wider than a finger. The next hour was a study in shock. He sat in the knee-deep slurry, watching sediment settle around his boots. Peripheral vasoconstriction began to shunt blood from his extremities to protect his core. He felt it as a tingling numbness, a biological retreat. He attempted to scale the walls, but the stone was glass smooth. This was the mortality gap, the precise distance between initial security and current isolation. He was 12 feet from the surface, but he might as well have been on the moon. No one knew he had detoured. No one would seek him here for at least 72 hours. Direct address. Imagine those hands are your only way out of a 12-foot stone grave. No ladder, no rope. Just your fingernails against millions of years of compressed rock. What's your first move? By the second night, the silence was deafening. The desert is a thermal thief. Daytime heat radiates into the vacuum of space, leaving the air at a bone-chilling 4 degrees Celsius. He shrouded himself in a mylar sheet. The crinkling echoed like gunfire against the canyon walls. His mind began to fold inward. Survival is rarely about brute force. It is about the stubborn refusal to stagnate. He inventoried his remains. A single tin of sardines, a handful of electrolyte capsules, a small fixed-blade knife. Nature doesn't care about your goals. It only respects the physics of failure. Complacency kills, but so does despair. On the third day, the physiological toll of the alkaline brine became undeniable. Electrolyte imbalance triggered muscle tremors. His urine turned the color of tea, a sign his kidneys were buckling under metabolic debt. He looked at his hands and saw them as tools belonging to a stranger. It was then he spotted the shadow. High above, a vulture circled the sliver of sky. It was a clinical observer of his decline. He would not be Mother Nature's tax. He took his knife and began the arduous process of carving shallow notches into the limestone. The task required the precision of a lapidary and the strength of an athlete. Every hour of labor yielded only an inch of progress. His fingernails tore, his muscles wasted, but the primitive brain had seized control. He was no longer a man. He was a burrowing animal determined to reach the light. In the high desert, a storm 40 miles away is a death sentence. The highlands collect water, funneling it into the earth's drainage pipes like a hydraulic piston. By the time you hear the roar, the wall of debris is often seconds away. As the fire of the fourth day died, a flash storm brewed to the north. He heard it before he saw it, a low, rhythmic vibration in the stone. The roar of the wind was replaced by the roar of the flood. He had two choices: stay and drown, or use his half-finished notches for a final, desperate ascent. He climbed. Every ounce mattered. He shed his pack, his boots, and his shirt. He wedged bare toes into the indentations he had spent 20 hours agonizing over. His breath hitched. The surge entered the canyon, a wall of mud and wreckage 5 feet high. It struck his legs, pulling with the weight of 1,000 hands. He screamed, a sound lost in the crashing torrent, and lunged for the rim. His fingers caught a tamarisk branch, a gnarled, salt-crusted root that felt like a gift from a god he didn't believe in. He pulled. His ribs scraped against the sharp rim, but he rolled onto the burning silt just as the canyon filled to the brim with liquid earth. He lay there for hours, a silhouette against the grit. Viewers who found him 3 miles from the trailhead. He was crawling on all fours. His hands were balled into bruised protective knots. They tracked him by the trail of discarded mylar and the scent of the sardines he never found the strength to open. Hindsight is 20/20. Experts pointed to a series of lapses: the absence of a satellite beacon, the unauthorized detour, the reliance on a single reservoir. But for those who have stood on the thin line between existence and erasure, those details are secondary. They are merely the mechanics of the test. What mattered was the 90% mental game. He had looked into the unknown and refused to blink. We often think we know our limits. But true limits aren't found in a gym or on a tracked run. They are found when the digital umbilical cord is cut, and the only thing between you and the earth is your will to carve a ladder. Respect the terrain, for it is ancient and silent. The desert did not welcome him. It merely tolerated his departure. Today, the Devil's Throat remains a blank space on the map. It is a quiet fracture in the limestone where the only evidence of a struggle is a series of weathered notches. They are fading now, erased by the same wind that once carried his screams. It is a reminder that we are all biological clocks. The environment always wins. The only question is how much of yourself you are willing to leave behind to buy another hour of breath. The legacy of the Shadow Fist is not victory. but endurance. He returned to a world of concrete and glass, but he never truly left the basin. Those who see him today notice the way he scans the horizon, not with fear, but with a quiet, clinical recognition. He knows the silence is deafening. He knows sweat is the enemy. He knows a human being is capable of carving a ladder out of a grave. In the end, we are all stories written in the silt, waiting for the next gale to tell us who we truly are. As you go about your day, remember, the wood does not care if your fingers are numb. The wasteland does not care if you are fatigued. The only thing that matters is the next step, one foot in front of the other, until the sun sets, or until the shadow finally catches up.